What are you hearing about this Hindenburg report? It got a lot of press yesterday. Are people concerned, or are some of these claims possibly overblown?
Well, I think that that's the general consensus here, that yes, they are indeed overblown. You've got a lot of analysts who are saying that block shares are likely oversold right now. Even though that Hindenburg report does create a near-term overhang for shares, they remain confident in the stock overall. Bank of America and Mizuho are reiterating their buy rating for the company. Baird says they still see the stock as good value. You've got analysts at Morningstar calling the claims, quote, largely anecdotal, and KeyBank and Raymond James agree issues flagged are nothing new to existing shareholders. So, Frank, the general consensus is that these big allegations that emerged from this 2-year investigation by Hindenburg are pretty narrow, mostly focused on fraudulent Cash App accounts and the use of Cash App for illegitimate activity. But this is the case with other P2P providers. PayPal previously disclosed that 4.5 million accounts were illegitimately created. Now, there is also the question raised by Hindenburg as to whether Block was misreporting its financials, which is probably the most material concern to shareholders. The report alleging that Block avoids a regulatory cap on interchange revenue by routing it through a small bank. But again, this is nothing new. Lots of fintechs benefit from the Durbin Amendment exemption by partnering with financial institutions that have less than $10 billion in assets in order to pull in more from interchange fees.
So, really interesting. Okay. There's also the fact that Hindenburg does have a bit of skin in the game on this trade. Is that part of why it looks like analysts or at least starting to kind of shrug off some of the allegations in this report?
Yeah, that certainly looks to be one factor at play here. You've got Hindenburg that was shorting the stock, so they stood to do well if the share price plunged, which it did. At peak sell-off on Thursday, when the stock was down around 20%, short sellers made over $400 million. That's according to Ortex Analytics. But then we get this response from Block on Thursday saying that it intends to work with the SEC to explore legal action against Hindenburg, calling the report factually inaccurate and misleading. And that is right when we saw the share price level off and begin to pare back its losses. But again, we're down this morning.
Yeah, down 4% this morning. Okay. So this report, it got a lot of press, got a lot of headlines. What's Hindenburg's track record when it comes to these kind of reports?
Yeah, so, Frank, it often doesn't go well for the company being targeted by Hindenburg. Adani lost more than $100 billion in market cap in a week after that Hindenburg report about them, not to mention the fact that India's Supreme Court is running its own investigation into business practices there. Meanwhile, back in 2018, it was Nikola under the microscope, with its founder, Trevor Milton, ultimately being charged by the SEC for pushing a false and exaggerated narrative and found guilty on 3 of those 4 counts. He faces years in prison. So pretty solid track record here of companies not faring well after a Hindenburg bet against them.
Walt, please, let's both of us stop trying to justify this whole thing and admit you're in danger.
Who are you talking to right now? Who is it you think you see? Do you know how much I make a year? I mean, even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Do you know what would happen if I suddenly decided to stop going into work? A business big enough that it could be listed on the NASDAQ goes belly up. Disappears. It ceases to exist without me. No, you clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in. I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot, and you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks.
No, I'm not talking Heisenberg, but the danger known as Hindenburg has come knocking on Jack Dorsey's door. Jack Dorsey, the former owner of Twitter, who owns Block, which was formerly known as Square, but they're now doing business as Cash App, is the target of Hindenburg's 2-year financial forensic audit. They believe that Block has a 70% downside due to its nefarious business practices. Well, who is this Hindenburg then? Well, they're an activist research short-selling firm. They've already, together with other short sellers, these guys have locked in $400 million on this short play alone. The party has just barely gotten started, as Block, ticker symbol SQ, is actually only 20% down since the report was released. This is the Stocks with Josh show, and I'm going to break down the story behind Jack Dorsey, Cash App, and Hindenburg's research, as well as give you guys some fresh technicals on Block, ticker SQ. Is it a buying opportunity, or should we be joining the danger and shorting this stock down to its dirty lows? One of the biggest questions that we have to answer is this Hindenburg Group, are they trustworthy? Well, they've had a successful run of calling out bad actors on Wall Street. They just completed one of their most successful attacks by bringing down the Adani Group, owned by Adani, recently the third richest man in the world. Hindenburg brought it to light that his company was pulling the largest con in corporate history. And since things were brought into that light, in just one short month, Adani Group has lost $145 billion in worth. So yes, Hindenburg is the real deal. He is like the Wall Street vigilante Batman, swooping in out of the dark, beating up the bad guys, leaving them hanging outside for the cops to find and arrest. Hindenburg is really what the SEC should be, an organization capable of flushing out the bad guys who are lying and manipulating the system to take advantage of the masses. But we know that that will never happen because Gary Gensler, in my view, is the problem. He is a bad guy, and so are all his friends. Hindenburg is on the side of the people. He's on the side of making money on these fraudsters. Their slogan is popping bubbles as we see them. The phrase popping bubbles is a reference to a bubble that gets created quickly, takes on size, but it's really just fragile and weak, and it can easily be popped, leaving little to no trace of the organization that once seemed so large. So what exactly is wrong with Block's Cash App? Hindenburg accuses them of having a willingness to facilitate fraud against consumers and the government, to avoid regulation, to dress up predatory loans and fees as revolutionary technology, and to mislead investors with inflated metrics. That is a direct quote of what Hindenburg has said about Block. These guys are accusing them of being a criminal's bank. You think crypto has operated outside the light of regulation? They're saying Cash App has been built on the backs of street gangs. They literally sponsored this video. Check it out.
Spinning with blinkies and black flags. Gun in my mirrors, been itching and clapped that. I had a gun in my backpack. Blicky to blicky, run down with that stash at. I paid them hitters through Cash App. Shooters like Mitchell put holes in the snap out.
Fun song. In that song, the rapper says that he ordered a hit. He paid for it on his Cash App. Block knew exactly what they were doing when they sponsored this video. This gentleman is actually incarcerated right now because of the things that he confessed about on the video. The fact that Block sponsored that video, knew that these guys know exactly who their customers, who their target audience is, and what their Cash App is being used for. A former employee interviewed by Hindenburg cited that every criminal has a Square Cash App account. There is even a literal gang who name themselves Cash App. These guys have systematically misled investors through false data, such as erroneous numbers of fake and duplicate accounts, as well as exaggerated monthly transactions. And they have strategically disregarded anti-money laundering rules, all in an effort to boost their base at all costs. Don't forget what happened to Jack Dorsey's project Twitter when he sold it to Elon. Elon came in and said, man, this company is propped up with a high number of fake users. It was his biggest complaint. He even attempted to back out of the deal, I think, which was a move to renegotiate price. But he's basically saying, you guys are selling me one thing, but you're giving me another. It's the exact same thing, same pattern, same leader, Jack Dorsey, same thing with Cash App. They're claiming to have way more customers than they actually have. It's just a pile of duplicate accounts, a pile of accounts all going back to single individuals. It's all propped up to appear much bigger than it actually is. It's a house of cards getting ready to come down. And to test these accusations, one of the things that Hindenburg did was to set up fake accounts under popular names like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and then go to order a Cash App card with those names on it. They weren't given any hesitation as their request and cards were quickly processed and promptly sent out. Cash App has no real KYC. You guys know what the KYC is. It's know your customer. We have to go through this over in crypto. Whenever we get on a foreign exchange, here we have an American business. It's not even doing proper KYC. Jack Dorsey has created the wild, wild west of fast-moving digital cash. I'm going to take a look with you guys at the charts in just a moment. But before I do, if you're looking for better trade tools, check out the offer from the Moomoo investment app. They're giving away up to 17 free stock to open and fund your account. Click on the link for the exact details. This is an exclusive and limited time offer. I use Moomoo every single day. I host a chat group on the app called Stock Josh Fam. Get your free stock, start investing today, and then come find our chat group. This battle is just heating up. To be clear, Jack Dorsey has struck back at Hindenburg, saying their claims are inaccurate and misleading. They said, and I quote, "We are a highly regulated public company with regular disclosures and are confident in our products, reporting, compliance programs, and controls. We will not be distracted by typical short seller tactics." This is what Block has come back and said to Hindenburg's claims. In addition to that, a number of large institutional investors have come out making statements of support for Block. I read those statements and found one idea particularly interesting. They were praising Block for providing banking services to underserved communities. And it does appear that Block has been able to take advantage of some gap regulation called the Durbin Carve-Out that enables less regulated services for underserved communities. This is where Cash App has been thriving. They really blew up during the COVID stimulus checks. It was reported that upwards of a dozen payouts were being directed to a single Cash App account because of the mass increase in the use of the SQ stock skyrocketing in 2021, hitting all-time highs of $289. Jack Dorsey was able to sell shares at the very top, locking in billions of dollars of personal profit. Since it hit $289, it has since fallen over 80% to the low 50s. It's enjoyed a nice run up with everything else since October's lows. It even got as high back as $89. It is beneath the 50, the 100, and the 200-day moving average right now, which is very bearish. It is not showing great relative strength. The RSI is below the 50% mark, and it is in the hands of the bears. Support below is at $54, and then beneath that at $48. I'm bearish on SQ, and I'm going to be taking Hindenburg's research very seriously and consider shorting and buying puts. I think Jack Dorsey is going to be scrambling to cross his T's and dot his I's as he is bound to continue to come under increasing scrutiny. And if he's been providing misleading data in any of his earnings reports, I could expect his upcoming reports will have to be more accurate in an effort to right the ship, which should be a surprise to the downside. This is not a suggestion for you guys to buy, sell, or hold. I found this entire story very interesting and will continue to follow it closely. I think there's going to be a big money-making opportunity for those who get in here correctly. Anyways, thank you for already hitting the like, hit the subscribe, and the YouTube all notification bell. As you guys can hear, my voice is not quite right yet, but I'm still plugging in here, making videos for you guys. I hope all of you are having a restful and peaceful weekend. As always, peace and blessings, my friends. Take care.